You said the vows, you prayed the prayers, but now your marriage doesn't look anything like the one you dreamed of. Hey, beautiful. It's Christy Little Jones, relationship coach and your chief cheerleader. Today, we're talking about something that so many wives carry quietly. What do you do when your marriage doesn't look anything like what you prayed for? Maybe you feel unseen or unheard, or maybe you've been holding it all together in quietness, or maybe you've been holding it all together with silent strength. But deep down, you're exhausted. In this episode, we are unpacking unmet expectations in marriage, where they come from, how they create major disconnection, and most importantly, how to reset your heart, redefine your hope, and how to reset your connection from the inside out. If you're ready for a soul level reset in your marriage, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. And let's walk through this together, one heart healing step at a time. Let's dive into the episode. So I had some pretty big expectations coming into marriage. I think like most of us do. And I have to admit that many of my expectations were a little fairy tale like. So where I expected him to do everything, take care of everything, provide for everything, and really be my knight in shining armor and provide safety and security and do all the things like many of us as young girls thought that this is what marriage was going to be like. And I admit I was one of those hook, line, and sinker. And I think that the expectations that I had of Adrian going into marriage, they were unfair because my expectations, like I said, were fairy tale like. So that expectation was a little bit more Disney like, more Pixar like, and not reality like. And so learning the reality of marriage, that was a complete violation of my expectation of what marriage was. It was one not only disappointing, but it was disheartening. I was discouraged. I was not encouraged at all. And what it did help me do is it helped me realize that, oh, wow, like even on TV, when we watch Love is Blind or Married at First Sight or any of those reality TV shows, and we think, and we're just enamored and just get so thrilled and excited when people find love and, love and really do expect it to work out, expect things to be, really move into happily ever after. And when we realize that they don't, it's a rude awakening for some of us, especially I think as women. And after 23 years nearly of marriage, one thing that I know for sure is that coming into a marriage, thriving in your marriage, staying in your marriage into perpetuity, until you leave this earth, of any time you have expectations coming into any relationship, really, that it is a huge setup for failure. Because when we're going to have violations of our expectations all the time, not only in marriage, but in career, with our kids, with our friends, our neighbors, who you name it. But we're always going to experience a violation of our expectations. So what does that mean? It means that we need to, one, understand what our expectations are, and two, really monitor them, keep them in check, and not let them really kind of overtake us or overtake the relationship. So the other thing I realized in marriage and regarding unmet expectations is that men and women think and see things completely different. I don't care how long you've been married. I don't care if you are like the best of friends. You and your spouse, men and women, they think differently. We see things differently. Let me give you this an analogy. Okay. So we have a $1 bill, right? So this $1 bill what do you see? You see George Washington, you see Federal Reserve note, you see the number one, right? The $1 bill. But guess what? On the other side of the dollar bill, you have the pyramid, you've got the eye of providence, you've got words like in God we trust, right? So, this is marriage. This is marriage. You, as the wife, see this. The husband sees this. Same dollar, right? This crazy, right? So, the thing is like when they're two completely different sides, two completely different perspectives, this is marriage, right? And neither of you is wrong. You're just looking at different sides. The goal isn't to convince your spouse that your side is right or vice versa. The idea is to get on the same page and turn the dollar around for each other. And so this is what you could be talking about: finances, you could be talking about intimacy, you could be talking about parenting, communication. And I want you to remember the dollar, because when there is friction or disagreement in your marriage regarding any issue, I want you to be reminded that you may see the issue like this, but they may see the issue like this. And the goal is to understand one another and how they see the issue. So what you could say: baby, show me what you see. Help me to understand your side. That is a very easy way to shut down the breakdown in communication by just simply asking, hey baby, can you show me your side? Can you show me your perspective? Help me understand your perspective. Help me understand how you see this situation. Instantly, it's going to change things around, because one, when both parties are trying to convince the other party that their perspective is right, or the other party's perspective is wrong, it's going to create friction. It's going to create disconnection. And so the idea is to understand each other's perspectives, even though they may be different, even though they may be both right and they may be both your truth. It's okay to have different perspectives of the same thing and they both be true for each other, but it's about honoring and respecting each other's truth, and also being able to know and hear, understand what the other's perspective is. It's tough, but if you can create a kind of like a default phrase when you feel the tension kind of building up in your neck or your chest or your throat, and you start feeling tight and you really want to be right, you really want to prove yourself to be right, remember the dollar. Okay, this might be he may be seeing this from a different perspective. How can we turn the dollar around together and understand each other's perspective in regards to the situation? Another expectation that I had going into marriage is that my husband would be the same man that he was when he was courting me before I said I do. Uh-huh. Well, we know that we're all changing, we're all evolving, we're all growing, and neither one of us are the same person that we married 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We're not the same. And if we were, that's another podcast or that's another episode. But it's important to really learn how to grow with each other and recognize when you are trying to force your spouse to be someone that they cannot be or something that they're not, that you're really not only setting yourself up for failure, but you're also setting them up for failure. And so I had an expectation that my husband he would lead a certain way. He would respond a certain way to my request for him to participate in a certain event that I really wanted to go to. My expectation was that he should show the same amount of excitement and enthusiasm and passion to participate in the same type of event because I really enjoyed the event, or I was really passionate about the event. That was a setup. It was a setup not only for me, but also for him because he really didn't want to do it. He was not showing enthusiasm. He was not showing excitement. And in turn, I'm disappointed because he wasn't showing excitement, but that's just not his thing. So over time, I kind of learned that, oh, okay, his passions aren't necessarily my passions, and that's okay. But oftentimes we want to do everything with our spouse, or maybe we've been taught or conditioned to believe that we have to do everything with our spouse and that we cannot have other interests or passions if they're not just as passionate with us. And that could really set you up too for the distance, the disconnection from your spouse because you have again an expectation that your spouse should be a certain way, act a certain way, do a certain thing a certain way, and when they don't, there's disappointment and there's discouragement and there's distance. Another unmet expectation that I had was that my marriage would look the same as it did in the first few years when things were fresh and exciting, all the way into happily ever after. And I really did not anticipate or expect the ups and downs, the hills and valleys. I did not expect to dodge as many bullets as we dodged in our marriage and survived. I did not expect the ups and downs of marriage. And, you may have heard of those things from seasoned couples. Oh yeah, you people who've been married 40 years, you're like, what's the secret? What's the secret? And it's so funny because every time I ask that, the husband always says, she's always right. I don't know what that means, but I feel like they're just like, you know what? I fought too much. I've argued too much, and then I just give her what she wants, and then I can in turn have the peace that I desire. And I'm like, huh, isn't that interesting? But I really feel that I I again, I carry these expectations with me every year, every month, every circumstance, every situation, and it really didn't help me in my marriage. In fact, I think it hurt more often than help because when I have this expectation that my marriage should be an A plus at every single year or every month, every wonderful event, and then when it doesn't, when it comes up as an F or it comes up as a D, of course I'm going to be disappointed. But then if we have several strings of D's and F's, then you're like, oh no, how did I get here? Right? So, what I've learned is when my vision for my marriage has detoured or taken a different path, that even though it may feel like a wrong path for me, it may not be a wrong path. It may be the path that we're supposed to go down in order to learn more about each other or learn how to work better together or learn how to to see my blind spot or his blind spots and really work on healing those areas together. So a detour in your marriage doesn't necessarily mean destruction or divorce. It could mean that it's an opportunity to grow closer together if you can really understand and get understanding from each other's perspective on how they see that issue. Okay, so let's get into, I'm really all about not only real talk, but I like practical results and things that actually you can do to see some results in your marriage. So let's look at, okay, number one, you want to name the unspoken expectation. That expectation that's unmet, name it, write it in a journal, write it out, and write a list of what expectations you had coming into marriage that are not being met. It's going to help you see what's real, from what's real to what's a fantasy or a fairy tale. In my case, it was a fairy tale. So what did you expect from marriage? And then I want you to write on the other side a list of what am I actually experiencing in marriage? And whether it's, if you want to categorize it and you really organize like that, where you want to do communication, sex and intimacy, parenting, finances, money, career, like write list. What did you expect? What were my expectations for marriage? And what is it that you're actually experiencing in marriage? So, unmet expectations are usually unspoken assumptions. And I heard something a long time ago about assuming. And when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And I thought, oh, that's really deep. So, unmet expectations are often unspoken assumptions. And so, when you start identifying what your expectations were emotionally, physically, spiritually, versus what actually exists, it's going to help you to be able to identify areas that you need to work on. And so ask yourself, after you write your list, what were my expectations in marriage in these specific areas? And then what am I currently experiencing in marriage right now based on these categories? Then I want you to ask yourself, where did these expectations come from? I know a lot of these expectations came from my own upbringing because of the way my dad treated my mom. And also movies, TV shows, also church, and the expectation that a Christian husband is supposed to do this, X, Y, and Z. He's supposed to look like this, X, Y, and Z. His behavior is supposed to be X, Y, and Z. That was major conditioning in my expectations as well. So that's the first thing in naming the unspoken expectations. Okay, number 2, this is a big one. Stop expecting him to read your mind, ladies. Stop expecting him to read your mind. Like I said with the dollar, men and women think and see things very differently. But I don't know why we do this all the time. We always are expecting our husbands, our friends to be able to read our minds. Why do we do that? We get so upset, bent out of shape when our husbands cannot see that something's wrong with us. I can't believe I came home. He didn't even notice that I was upset or I had a bad day. Right? And then now you're distant because your husband is completely clueless that he has no idea what happened because you didn't tell him. That's a big area, a big breakdown in communication, is because oftentimes we as women, we expect our husbands to know us well enough or to be able to read our minds. They can't. I remember probably 4 years into marriage, my husband was like, please just tell me what you want. And I did actually a podcast episode years ago about the target, about men want to be able to hit the target. If you as a wife can be very clear in communicating what it is that you desire, what it is you want, most husbands, they would be so happy to be able to hit the target every single day, to be able to not only make you happy, but give you the desires that you want and bring peace in the home. But we are moving targets. Let's be honest, we're moving targets. One day we're right here, the next day we're here, the next day we're here and here and here. And so the husbands are like, they're like, but you were just here last week. You were just here 2 weeks ago. What happened? So then they're like trying to navigate where the target or the bullseye is. And some of them are just like, oh, forget it. I can't find the target. So I'm just going to shut down. And we in turn are like, oh, you don't care about us. You don't care about me. You don't see me. I don't feel heard. I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated because we're moving the target everywhere. And so that is a big one. Stop expecting your husbands to read your mind, and be courageous enough, vulnerable enough, brave enough to share your heart And even if it's something that you don't want to share, I'm one of the biggest people, I do not like confrontation. So if it's, babe, I really feel, right? I feel not, you never, right? You never, I really feel just really disconnected from you when you don't ask me how my day was when we come home after work. I really feel versus you never ask me how I am. You never ask me how my day was. Hear the difference? Not even the tone. You could still say a sweetie sweet, right? But it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. So if you say, babe, I really feel disconnected from you when we come home at the end of the day and you don't ask me how my day is. Could you ask me how my day is a little more often? Very different than, it really pisses me off that you don't ever ask me how my day is. I ask you how your day is every day, but you never ask me how my day is. Whew, that's a breakdown. That's a breakdown in communications. So the practical application for that is to express what you need without accusing. So you want to not say the words you never, but instead, I feel. So it could be, I feel really overwhelmed and would love some help with the kids tonight. Or, and then could we talk about what that would look like for both of us? Very different than you never help me. Very different. So, don't start, also timing is important. So don't start conversations when it's like 12 o'clock at night and your spouse is dozing off, or 12 midnight, or don't start a conversation when you're in the middle of chaos or there's already tension between you. That's not a good time. So studying your spouse and learning when's a good time to communicate with them and communicate your most vulnerable feelings is key. And we know when those times are, right? We know when our husbands are in a good mood and they're light and they're happy. That's a good time to have this conversation. Not in the middle of the playoff game, the NBA playoff game. That's not the best time to talk to your spouse. But if you don't know, ask them, hey, babe, there's something it's really important to me that I really want to talk to you about. Can you tell me when's a good time for you today to talk about it? Sure. They may turn off the TV right then and there. They may say, can we talk after the game's over? Whatever. But communicate that to them. It's really important. Okay, y'all, this is number 3. Grieve the fairy tale or grieve the fantasy and then rebuild the reality. Huge. I have to tell you that I grieved the fairy tale. I grieved the fantasy of marriage looking a certain way. And, I may not have boohooed and cried, but I really did have to go through the grieving process of holding on to this fairy tale like marriage and this fairy tale expectation for marriage, because I really did believe in the fairy tale, like the Snow White, the Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale, the knight in shining armor, aha, like with this sword. Like, yes, it's funny, I know, but I really did believe that. And so once I really grieved the fact that, oh, that's a cartoon. That's Disney. That's Disney magic, right? I realized, okay, so I need to rebuild the reality of what my marriage is currently and what it is that I desire it to be realistically. It's okay to mourn your marriage, the marriage that you thought it was going to be. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to grieve, but don't stay there. Don't stay in that grieving space. Really get curious and creative on how you can co-create a marriage that both supports, loves, and serves the two of you. Now, creating a new, fresh foundation, a fresh start, and just a newness in your marriage together collectively. Basically, what you can do in grieving your fairy tale marriage or grieving your fantasy and rebuilding the reality in your marriage is write a letter. Write a letter to God, to your younger self. Journal it out. Write a letter. Write a letter about what you had hoped for, and write a letter just identifying those areas that you're grieving. And then ask the question, where are you leading? What vision are you leading me to now in my marriage? And write that out and get it out. It's so helpful to you, your heart, your healing, to write these things down. Don't just keep it bottled in. Don't keep it swirling around in your head, but write it out. Write a letter to your younger self, or even dear God, write a letter to him. I have many letters that I've written to God about the violation of my expectation. And I often blamed God as well in those letters. You said. But God knows my heart, right? And he's a forgiving God, so he will really, there'll be a comfort in getting it out, because you feel some kind of way about saying certain things about how you feel, but God knows what you feel in anyway. He knows what you think anyway. So you might as well write it out, get it out, so it's no longer bottled up in your heart. Okay, number 4. Lastly, there's growth in pain. If you were to hurt something on your body, let's say you broke a toe, the pain there is going to cause you to give it attention, right? So anything that we hurt, even a fingernail, something even small, a paper cut, there's still pain there, and it draws attention to it. So the pain that you've experienced in your marriage, I would ask yourself, what why is this happening right now? Why is this happening? What have I done to contribute to this happening? What has my spouse done to contribute to this happening? And then what can we do now to really rebuild and reconnect and renew our our hearts towards each other, and the renew our commitment and our connection in marriage? What is it that we can do now in order to achieve a collective goal? Sometimes unmet expectations expose where growth is needed. Yes. And so ask yourself, what, even ask God, what are you showing me in this? What do I need to shift within me and in how I'm showing up in this relationship? And really listen, and listen to your heart, listen to your soul, and write down the answer. And you'll hear it if, as the more you invest in yourself and your healing in this relationship. So as you commit to co-creating your marriage, newly creating your marriage, I want you to think about just a reset button, or the reset button, and pressing the reset button in your marriage and trying to do something like this. So scheduling a monthly State of the Union talk with your husband. So State of the Union talk is where you are talking about the state of your union, and how do you feel our marriage is going right now? What would you like to see different? And it might be your husband the first couple times may be like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Because one of the things I do know, research shows that when on a scale from 1 to 10, when the husband's asked how their marriage is, they may say, oh, it's an 8. And the wife may say it's a 1. So sometimes it's totally opposite, because again, we have such violations of our expectations. And if we're not communicating what those are and what those desires are, or if we're not making an effort to understand what our husband's perspective is on those same issues, then we sometimes will shut down, will withdraw, and become distant. Next thing you know, we're out the door. And so this channel, this podcast, is to help you not to do that, not to go there, but to really do the things, take the steps first that will help you in every single relationship. Because if you do not fix your expectations, or if you don't address and identify what your expectations are, or you don't fix the blind spots in your life, if you do not heal the holes in your heart, guess what? It's going to be the same thing in the next relationship. And so it's really important to do the self work, the soul work on you so that you can create a life and a marriage that loves you back. So many times, unmet expectations are really a mirror. They are a mirror of areas in our lives. When we see somebody that does something that really irritates us or annoys us, oftentimes it's a mirror of things that annoy us in ourselves. I know it's weird, right? And so we need to, the mirror shows us where we need healing, not just our partner. The inner work leads to outer shifts. Inner work leads to outer shifts. So even if there's like a 1% shift in your marriage, like holding hands again, praying together, starting a new ritual, like a Sunday download check-in, right? This helps big time. I can't begin to tell you, a year ago, me and my husband were on two different sides of the couch when we were watching television. It was very cordial. It was very, very distant. And over time, I started sitting closer to him. I would, touch him, like touch his leg while we were watching television. And over time, like might be out somewhere, and I would just grab his hand and hold his hand. And he would grab back, but he didn't initiate all of these things because he was distant, very. But I did not want that in my marriage. I did not want to throw in the towel. I did not want to head to the divorce courts. So I started doing the inner work on me. I started doing the work on me, taking my focus off of him and what he was doing wrong and the things that I hated that he was doing or not doing, and refocusing it on me. And I cannot begin to tell you, on this channel, through this podcast, I am going to share all of the things that I did to help us get to a place of hope, of healing, of a renewed marriage, renewed connection and intimacy, and a very short period of time, because I made a small shift, a lot of 1% shifts in what I was doing, how I was responding, and I completely detached emotionally from what he was doing or what he wasn't doing. And so we'll get into that in a later episode. So to start the process of you investing in your own heart healing, I created a free download for you to accompany this episode. So you can go into the show notes and you can download that and get your own guide to help you to ask yourself some of the questions that I've mentioned in this episode. The other thing is you can always start coaching. If you want one-on-one coaching or group coaching, I offer those as well. There's a link in the show notes for that. In addition to, I'm going to teach you in probably the next episode about something. It's a tool that I have used that has helped to save my marriage. And it's called the emotional freedom technique, or tapping, as you may have heard of it. And tapping around resentment and disappointment. And it really is a process of really just acknowledging the anger, the emotion, the disappointment, the discouragement, the resentment. It's about honoring them, releasing them, and then moving on to healing. And it is a beautiful technique that has helped me tremendously. The other thing is reconnecting with your passions, with sisterhood, with things that revive your soul, that brings you joy, that bring you happiness. And we are going to address those throughout the year and just on the channel in general. Sis, I see you. You have invested way too much to give up. There's still so much beauty to build in your marriage. I invite you to subscribe to this channel or podcast. I invite you to review the podcast or leave a comment below. And I also want to encourage you to share this with another wife who needs a little wisdom and a whole lot of love. I want to remind you to download the free guide here on the show notes. And then also you can DM me on Instagram over at Christy Little Jones on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, I am here to not only help you to reset, to reconnect, and rebuild in your marriage, but I also am here to help you to create a life and marriage that love you back. I cannot wait to connect with you next time. Thanks for joining. Thanks so much for watching. If the video you just saw blessed you, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're ready to go a little deeper, whether in your faith, your relationships, or personal growth, visit ChristyLovesYou.com/go deeper. I have something really special waiting for you there. Until next time, know that you are loved, you are seen, and I am cheering for you always.